It's finally time for another English paper piecing skill building pattern. Hello and welcome to the Maker Jane channel, where I share all things English paper piecing, from tips and tutorials to projects and more. So if you love EPP like I do, please consider subscribing. In this video, we're continuing on with the EPP skill building series called Flowers and Butterflies. This video begins the stitch along for pattern number 4, all about EPP curves. As usual, like we've been doing up to this point on the channel, we're going to be doing a stitch along for this pattern as well. So in the stitch along videos that correspond to this pattern, I'm going to show you how to baste curves, both concave and convex curves, and also how to stitch them. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the actual pattern and what the flower and the butterfly look like for the curves pattern. Then in the following videos, which I'll be posting once a week, starting next week, we will actually get into the basting and the stitching, and I'll show you step by step how to make this pattern. So if you are new to curves with English paper piecing, or if you're more experienced with curves and you'd like to develop your skills and do some more practice, I'm so happy to welcome you to this pattern. All the links that you will need are going to be down below in the description. So if you would like to get your hands on the pattern, or maybe even some templates, and get ready for the stitch along coming next week, be sure to check out those links down below. If you're new to the EPP skill building series, I've also got links in the description for you to start at the beginning of the series. The Flowers and Butterflies series is a multi-part pattern and stitch along that is really made to help you develop and grow your English paper piecing skills. We started at the very beginning of the series with the basics of English paper piecing, and we started working with hexagons, and I showed you how to glue, baste, and stitch your hexagons together into a flower and a butterfly motif. The second pattern, we got to go beyond hexagons and moved into shapes that have sharp points and skinnier edges. They're skinnier shapes with sharp points. In that particular pattern, you learned how to bring all of your points together into one spot and how to really work with and what to do with all of those seam allowances that come together into one location. In the third pattern, we talked about fussy cutting. I taught you how to pull fabrics for fussy cutting and what types of fabrics are good for fussy cutting. I also taught you how to make your own DIY fussy cutting template that I then showed you how to use to fussy cut and create a fussy cut flower and a fussy cut butterfly. And the fourth and final pattern that we're talking about in this video is all about curves. What's nice about this pattern is that you can also bring all of the skills that you've learned so far in the series together into this particular pattern. So if you're new to the series and you haven't yet watched those videos, be sure to check those out when you're finished with this video. I want to take you to the work table, and we're going to take a closer look at what this pattern looks like. So I want to begin by showing you what the cover of the pattern looks like, so that when you get to the shop, you know what you're looking for. First of all, on the cover, you can see the flowers and butterfly. And at the very top, it says pattern number 4, EPP curves. If you do go to the shop, you will see several different patterns in the shop, and you just want to make sure that it says pattern number 4, EPP curves. And then of course you want to look at the actual flower and the butterfly and make sure that those match what you see here. You should see the flower and the butterfly with the curves. The other patterns in the series are going to have a similar flower and butterfly, but the actual design of the flower and the butterfly is different. The coloring is very similar though, so make sure that you pick out the pattern that you actually want to get. Okay, so let me go ahead and just take you through this. The first page inside the pattern is just a kind of an overview, kind of a welcome to the pattern. And then there's a table of contents here on the right. All of the underlined text within the pattern is a clickable link. There it goes. All you have to do is tap on the link and it will take you to the page that it's referring to. So this is the coloring page. It's page 15 of the pattern, and it's the coloring page for the flower. So you've got one page of flowers that you can play around with your colorings. You also have another page of butterflies. And these are the pages where you've got your 1-inch square so that you can make sure that your templates are printing at the correct size. These are not template sheets. These are just coloring sheets. I'll show you the template sheets here in just a second. But basically, before you print your templates, you'll want to print off either this page or the previous page. Both of those have the 1-inch square. And that is just kind of a double check to make sure that your printer is printing your pages at the correct size and at the correct magnification, if you will. You want to make sure that you're printing it correctly so that you end up with the correct dimensions that you're expecting. So before I show you the template pages, I want to show you the dimensions. This is the 5th page in the pattern, and basically I give you the butterflies and the flowers, and each one comes in 3 different sizes. And inside this pattern, you've got a template sheet for each size. So you've got everything you need right here in the pattern if you want to make your own templates. So just to go over real quick, we've got small, medium, and large. And I'm going to show you what those look like here in just a second. I have some made just off camera here. But the 1-inch square that I mentioned, you want to make sure that that measures actual 1 inch, because then these dimensions will be accurate. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And all of the instructions are in the pattern. So, that's all explained right here on page 3. So you don't have to remember from this video. It's fine. Page 4 of the pattern gives you your fabric requirements. And to be honest, I didn't use more than just a few 5-inch squares of fabric for each motif. So in the pattern, I mentioned a minimum of 10-inch square of fabric for each color, but really you could get away with a 5-inch square of each color. It really depends on the size of the flower or the butterfly that you're using, and it also is going to depend on whether or not you're fussy cutting. So of course, if you're fussy cutting, which I have a little note right here at the bottom, if you are fussy cutting, you will most likely need more fabric. So just keep that in mind as you're picking out your fabrics for this pattern. And finally, I'm going to take you to the template sheets real quick and just show you what those look like. We'll take a look at this one here. This is the large butterfly. And each template sheet will tell you at the top what it is the templates are for, and it will also tell you how many flowers or butterflies that you can get out of one sheet. So for this particular sheet, I could print 1 page and I could have enough templates to make 2 butterflies. And all the other template sheets are the exact same way. So if I go over here to the flower, same exact thing. This is the small flower, and 1 sheet of these templates will make 3 flowers. So that way you kind of know how many sheets of templates you'll need to print. Once you've got these printed, then you can cut out your templates. And I do recommend using scissors for this. If you want to make your own templates, hand cutting with scissors will help you to be the most accurate with your cuts. And of course, if you don't want to cut your templates and you would rather have them already pre-cut for you, you can go to my shop and get those. And the links are below in the description. Okay, so now that we have talked about the pattern, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual flowers and butterflies. The first flower we'll look at is the smallest size, and I just want to give you the measurements real quick. This little guy is measuring at about 4 1/4, and it is symmetrical, so it's going to be 4 1/4 all the way around. As I mentioned in the introduction, these patterns are going to be really great to practice your fussy cutting skills. Here is the medium-sized flower. And just to compare the sizes, I'll place this one on top of that one, and you can see that it is quite a bit bigger. This one is coming in at about 6 1/4, just under 6 1/4, I would say. That's a rough measurement. And you can see how you can really start playing with your fussy cutting. Now, this one is a pretty obvious fussy cut. This one isn't an identical fussy cut, but I did fussy cut in the fact that I arranged my petals on the fabric so that all of these diamond shapes would be pointing in this direction in relation to that petal. So you can really have a lot of fun with these flowers. And I'm going to show you in a little bit the fun you can have with the butterflies. So that's the medium. And finally, we have the large. And this is quite large. This actually would be a great flower to add to a block. So if you had maybe a 12-inch block that you wanted to add a motif to. This is almost 8.5 inches. So you would have plenty of room around the outside if you wanted to applique this onto just a square piece of fabric and then make a quilt that way. You could make as many flowers as you want with the pattern because you've got all the templates that you need. All you have to do is print them off, and you print off as many as you need. Let's say you needed 16 or maybe even 20 squares, 20 blocks. You could have 20 flowers, and each flower you could put in the center of your square and then sew your squares together to make your quilt. And I have talked a little bit about hand applique in previous videos of this stitch along. In particular, it was the last video I posted, actually. I showed you how to hand applique both the flower and the butterfly onto some background fabric. So you could very easily go to that video and use that same technique to create a quilt block with a block or a flower like this. So the large is really great for larger projects. And of course, the small and the medium are going to be great for your smaller and medium-sized projects. What I love about this flower is that it kind of starts you off kind of easing into your curves adventure. So if you are new to curves, I recommend that you start with the flower. And I also recommend that you start with either the medium size or the large size. The reason for that is because it's going to give you more control because you've got more fabric and more template to hold on to. If you are more experienced with English paper piecing and you would like to challenge yourself, or you're experienced with curves and you just want to have some fun, if you also want to challenge yourself being more experienced with curves, then I highly recommend that you start with the small size because that's going to help you develop your skills just working with shorter templates, shorter template sides. If you'd like a challenge and you're more experienced with EPP, then the small is definitely a fun one to make. Another thing with these flowers is you can also play around with the arrangement of your fabrics. So if you'll notice here, I've got several different colorways. I've got a pink colorway, I've got a yellow, and then I have this kind of a peachy red going on. And in these different flowers, I also not only chose different color fabrics, but I also played around with the actual arrangement of the fabrics. So for example, in this particular flower, I arranged my light and my medium and my dark in a different way than I did in these other ones. So in this one, I've got my medium in the middle, I've got my dark here in the center, and then I put my light fabrics in the outer petals. In this medium size flower, my darkest fabric is actually in the center. And then I would say, it's kind of hard to really tell, but I would call this maybe my medium because it's got the red in it, which adds a little bit of darkness, but then it also has the white and that really bright yellow, which makes it light as well. So to my eye, actually looking at it, it looks lighter in the center. And then this yellow out here looks darker, but your eye may be telling you something different. But just play with your fabrics and have fun with it. This large flower, you'll see, is different than all of them. So what I did here is I put my lightest fabric in the center. I put my darkest fabric in the next ring of petals. And then my medium fabric, I put in the outer ring of petals. So now that we've talked about the flowers, I want to show you what the butterflies look like in living color. So here are the 3 different sizes of butterflies. And I'm going to measure these here in just a second. But basically, we've got the small, which is smaller than the palm of my hand. So this is a really fun one. And here's the medium, a little bit bigger than the palm of my hand. And then we have the large. So let's take a look at the small. Let's put this on top here. And we've got, it's about 4.5 inches wide. And it is about 2 inches tall. Well, you can see that there. The medium is 6.5 wide by about or almost 3 inches tall. And then our large is very large, coming in at about 8.5, just over 8.5 actually. And it's almost a full 4 inches in height. So again, this size would be great to incorporate into larger projects, and your medium and small would be great for incorporating into smaller projects. The curves are already challenging, but the butterfly is going to be even more challenging than the flowers. The reason for that is because not only are you working with curves, which you've already worked with in the flower, but now you are bringing all of these points together in the center of the butterfly. So you've got curves and you've got points coming together, and it can get a little bit tight. Let me just flip this around. It can get a little bit tight on the back with all this fabric coming together. So the butterfly is a great pattern to continue to build your skills in bringing all your points together, as well as working on your curves. So keep that in mind if you are going to be working on this project. Also, in terms of challenge and size, again, if you're new to curves and you want to take it easy on yourself and get more familiar with curves, and you want a less challenge, then I would recommend working with the large butterfly. And the butterfly is going to go together a lot quicker than the flower does. The flower doesn't take very long at all, but the butterfly goes together much quicker just because there's less pieces. If you are more experienced with EPP and you want to challenge yourself, or you are, an old hat at curves, then you may want to consider working with the small or the medium. I will say that this size butterfly is the most challenging because look how small that little butterfly body piece is. I think that side is just over 1/4 inch. So not only do you have the ability to develop and grow your curves piecing skills, but if you have never worked with tiny piecing in your English paper piecing, then the butterfly, this particular size butterfly, is going to be great for that practice. So you've got some really short sides here. Like I said, they're just over 1/4 inch. You also have a nice short side right here. And then you've got really skinny pieces that all come together right here in the center. So this size is going to be fantastic for those of you who really want to challenge yourself and dive into curves. And you can see here from the different colorways that I chose for the butterfly, the endless variety of not only fabric colors, but also fabric layout with the butterfly in particular. So right now in this large one, I've got kind of my darkest fabric on the outside with my mediums here and then some lights coming out this way. But you could easily switch those up and play around with where you put your lights and your darks and create a totally different looking butterfly. So let's take a look at this one, for example. In this butterfly, I decided to put my darker fabrics in the center and especially this center one here. And then I put my lighter fabrics out on the outer tips. And my lightest fabric is actually on the body pieces. So it really gives a completely different look to the butterfly. And this one, I kind of did the same way. So I put all of my darker fabrics in the center, except for the body pieces. And this yellow is a light or a medium. And then I put my light pieces out on the outer wings as well. So you can see the different effects that you can get based on not only the different fabrics that you choose, but also the different arrangement of your fabrics. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the flowers and butterflies that you make. So if you would like to share them with me, be sure to join the Facebook group. I've got the link down below in the description, and post pictures of your flowers and butterflies. There are several of us working in the group on the Flowers and Butterfly Skill Building series, and we would love for you to join us. Hope to see you inside. So what did you think of the flower and the butterfly? They look pretty fun to stitch up, don't they? Are you looking forward to stitching up those curves? I know I am, and I'm looking forward to the stitch along with you. If you'd like to join the stitch along for this pattern, there's a few things that you'll need to do. Number one, make sure you're subscribed to this channel so that you can get notified on when I post the future stitch along videos. Again, those are going to be starting next week. Second, you'll need to get the pattern. Now, DIY templates are included in the pattern. That means that you can just buy the pattern by itself and print out the template sheets and cut them out yourself. However, if you would prefer to purchase pre-cut templates and not have to do any of the cutting of your templates, you can also get pre-cut templates from my shop. And you'll find links to those down below in the description. Third, once you've got your pattern ordered and your templates ordered, if you're going to be purchasing templates, you'll need to start picking out some fabrics that you want to use. Hopefully, the samples that I showed you in this video gave you some ideas on the types of fabrics that you can use for this pattern. But feel free to get creative and maybe even pick out a few different fabric palettes to give yourself some options when we actually start stitching next week. So to review, there's 3 things that you'll need to do if you want to join this stitch along. 1, be sure you're subscribed to this channel and click the bell to get your notifications. 2, get the pattern and your templates. 3, pick out some fabrics. I hope to see you next week as we start stitching the flower from this pattern. And finally, if you're new to the series and you'd like to start at the beginning, I've got the link down below in the description where you can get the first pattern for free. I'm super excited to stitch up these curves with you, so I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep on stitching.